Thoughts on the future of Google search? Google search is in a really interesting position. I think search advertising as it is now will not exist 10 years from now. We're seeing a paradigm shift in how we as humans access information. So prior to the internet, we might go to the library and look up an encyclopedia, call an information helpline, talk to people. As soon as the internet came along, search became the primary method through which we accessed information. If we needed to find something, it was at our fingertips via Google search. And now, because we've been using Google for 20 years, we don't think of this as anything special. We're seeing a similar shift moving from search of information as indexed online, that's what we've been using for 20 years, to generation via large language models, being able to pull up information via an LLM. And already ChatGPT has about 900 million users, probably going to hit 1 billion very shortly. So the adoption rate is much faster than Google, much faster than any technology we've ever had before. So I think what's going to happen is humans will shift from searching for indexed information. They'll shift towards just asking questions and getting information using generative AI. So I think search advertising is done for. So Google are in a position where they make a huge amount of money. I think it was $350 billion last year. Or was it 250 billion? It's hundreds of billions. Most of that, 70 to 80%, is from advertising. And most of that is from search advertising, running banner ads at the top of Google, basically. That is going to die. And they are going to have to sacrifice their own cash cow and pivot to survive. Google's in a lot of trouble, but at the same time, they're also in a really good position to take the AI race. I was not saying this last year, but after the release of Gemini 3 and the fact that Google just started to ship some really good stuff, I've changed my tune. And I think that Google are in a very good position to take the market. Elon Musk is suing OpenAI. So those two are head to head. The winner of that lawsuit, Google. Google also own the own vertical. So they are not reliant on NVIDIA for GPUs. They use their own TPUs, tensor processing units. They have their own cloud infrastructure. They have oodles of data. And so from search history, from our emails, they own all the data. This is why Nano Banana Pro is so good. They have been indexing and labeling images for the last couple of decades with Google Image. They just have a huge amount of data, whereas the other companies need to scrape Google in order to access that data, followed by having distribution, massive distribution via Android, via Chrome, the browser. They are just in a good position. They do need to replace their search advertising revenue though. So they'll be watching what OpenAI are doing very closely, because they will want to model their advertising plan. So they're in a great position right now because they are also not cash hungry. OpenAI need to continue to make money. They need to either raise money from investors by selling them the dream that we're going to hit AGI and then all of your investments will return 1,000-fold, or they need to raise money using things like advertising. Google have a war chest. They have cash. So they can wait. They can allow companies like OpenAI to release adverts to get all the flack that comes from that. And then later down the line, they will release their own version when it's a known quantity. At the same time, Google is in the most trouble they've ever been because we're shifting from search to generative AI, and 70% of their revenue comes from search. That's the difficulty. But if anyone's going to do it, it's probably Google. They own the whole vertical, have all the data, a lot of cash. Gemini and people like Demis Hassabis and DeepMind, so they have the minds to do this as well. It's going to be a rough ride, but I think they can probably pull it off. It'd be exciting to see what happens over the next few years. Yes, this is the question, Greg. Is winning the AI race financial benefits enough to offset the loss of search advertising? This is the huge question. They have to kill their cash cow, a cash cow that is making hundreds of billions of dollars. They know that's going to not be around in the next few years, so they need to kill their own cash cow using things like Google AI overviews at the top of Google to pivot away from search advertising, not knowing whether generative AI ads will be able to replace that revenue. That's the huge gamble. I think they don't have much of a choice. It's either allow search advertising to die or actively kill it yourself using Gemini, using Google AI overviews, so at least you are in control of the narrative, and hope you can work out how to monetize that down the line, which is why they'll be looking at OpenAI and being like, let's see if they can pull this off. That is the question, Greg, whether or not they'll be able to do it. It is a lot of money they need to replace. It is hundreds of billions. None of the AI companies are making anywhere near that. They have massive data center costs as well. I did want to look at this analysis, though, by Signal of revenue. So he does a very kind of back of the napkin sketch of how much they could make. Let's talk about ads. Inside of ChatGPT, it will be insane. You get a level of personalization inside of ChatGPT, which I don't think you get anywhere else, because we're giving it all of our deepest, darkest secrets. So here we go. 2025, last year, Meta made around $58 per user from ads. Imagine OpenAI hits 1 billion free users by 2026. They will. They're already at 900 million. So they'll be at 1 billion in a month or two, I'm sure. They're still growing. Let's say they have 1 billion users. If they monetize just 9% Metas, so 9% average revenue per user, that's $5 billion in incremental revenue. If they manage 20%, they'll have $10 billion in revenue. If they get exactly $58 per user this year, then they'll generate 60 billion per year from adverts alone. Now let's look at Google revenues. In one quarter, from January to March 2024, Google generated 50 billion from advertising alone. There's still a discrepancy in amounts needed, because this is 60 billion in 1 year, whereas Google generated 40 billion in 1 quarter just from search ads. The question is whether they'll make enough money to justify the costs of artificial intelligence, to justify the sky-high valuations from the IPOs. A lot of investors are trying to work out these numbers to see whether this makes sense. Are these adverts potentially harming their user base, but only dribbling in a few billion? I know it's a huge amount of money, but if they need hundreds of billions and they're only able to generate 20 billion, 30 billion, maybe 50 billion a year, is that going to be enough to support them in the long run? No, they need other revenue sources as well. Signal saying, can AI companies match or exceed social media average revenue per user? Because this is what it hinges on. AI sits closer to intent than feeds ever did. The intent of purchasing, the intent of a commercial transaction, as we looked at here: informational, navigational, commercial, and transactional. AI sits much further down because it knows what we want, because we talk to it on a daily basis. So you could potentially get more than this $58 per user that Meta manages to get, which would unlock them being able to make even more revenue per user. Maybe. There's a lot of provisionals here. It will take time, but if AI becomes the default for thinking, searching, buying, and choosing, social media average revenue per user may end up looking like a floor, not a ceiling. Given that they have many Facebook veterans, OpenAI have been bringing in people from Facebook, including Fiji Simo. She was brought over and she's now CEO of applications from OpenAI, previously from Meta. I've lost it. So they have the potential to build one of the greatest ad businesses, especially because they know your secrets and fears. They know everything about us. That is leverage when you're advertising. It's gross, but that's how this works.